Hello world, Shelly here, and today I've got for you my top 5 drugstore foundations. Now, this is a video that several of you have requested, and I'm actually going to give you my top 6 because the 6th honorable mention is too good not to mention, so I will mention it honorably, and that's what we're going to do today. So I have got, 30 or so foundation reviews on my channel at this point, and I thought I would make a video of the top few in my drugstore category and the top few on the high-end category, so stay tuned for that. Click that subscribe button and you'll get notified if you click the little bell on when I post that video and every other video that I post. So let's get into it. We will go from lowest to highest, so if you're just looking for the number 1, you can skip ahead to the end, but that's how we will roll on this video. So number 6, I've gone through, I have a spreadsheet where I list all of the sort of things that I look for in a foundation and how that particular one came out in my review, and so I have gathered the pertinent information here. Spoiler alert if you pause and zoom in and could see that. In 6th place, the honorable mention is from Wet n Wild, and it is the Photo Focus foundation. I have this in 2 different shades because it retails for $5.99, so you can grab a few and get your perfect match. This one here is Rose Ivory. I also have Shell Ivory, and Rose Ivory is described as light. It's got a pink undertone, a little too pink for me, and then Shell Ivory is considered fair with a neutral undertone, and the combination of the two works perfectly for me because I am neutral with slightly cool undertones, slightly pink undertones, and mixing the two works really well for me. So in my foundation review of this foundation, I gave it a B-. It comes in 20 shades. Everyone has the description on the bottle as to whether it's fair or light and whether it's cool or neutral or warm. It's so helpful, makes it so easy to find yourself a good match. Now, this particular foundation wears average weight. It's not super lightweight, but it doesn't feel heavy. It has a matte finish on me. Some people seem to have a slightly more luminous finish. It's pretty matte on me. I get light to medium coverage out of it. It builds up very nicely. 8-hour wear time, so you can get a good solid work day out of it. I find that if you've got dry skin, it is slightly drying to dry skin. I do have dry skin, so I am looking for something that does not dry my face out or hydrates it even better. So this one's slightly drying. In terms of the overall finish, I find that my pores are still visible, but they are not accentuated, so that's okay with me. I would call that pretty average performance. Texture is slightly blurred, so I do feel like it does slightly improve the texture of my skin when I'm wearing this foundation. Slight settling into lines, and over time it does sort of separate along your deeper lines, in my case my smile lines. So it doesn't really crack the top 5, but it's super close. On the downside, it flat up smells like paint. It smells like you are putting paint, like Sherwin-Williams, on your face. And the smell does dissipate, but it is kind of alarming, and it's a very strong scent. So if you are adverse to strong fragrances, that might bother you. I can tolerate it because it does dissipate, doesn't stick around, but be aware that happens. So here's our honorable mention, number 6, Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. In 5th place, at the time I reviewed it, it came in 5th place, we have the Ordinary Colors Serum Foundation. I've got this in shade 1.1P, and having worn this quite a bit recently, I would say it's probably even ranked higher than 5th place. It might even be my favorite of the ones I've got in this top 6 roundup, but at the time I reviewed it, it was my 5th place in terms of how it's scored. It retails for $6.70. That's drugstore pricing for sure. It earned a B in my initial review, and it is available in 21 shades, so you're very likely to have a match. And again, they're all numbered and lettered. They have P for pink or cool undertone. They've got neutral and warm, and then they've got a number scheme that shows you how light, fair, or dark, deep the foundation is, so it's very easy to find a color match. And again, it's so inexpensive that you can just buy a few and find your shade. I got really lucky. I just kind of picked 1.1p, and it was right on, and I really love the color match of this. It is incredibly lightweight. It makes it very comfortable to wear. You feel like you're wearing next to nothing. It's got on me a natural sort of satin finish. It's not dewy, but it's not matte. It's a light to medium coverage. It builds up very easily. It can be natural looking as an everyday sort of no makeup look, or you can build it up and get a more full coverage out of it, even though it's a serum consistency. You hear that? It's a really watery sort of serum consistency, but it really has tons of pigment in it and covers really, really well. It gets 10 hours plus wear time in my experience. I can wear this sun up to sundown and it still looks decent at the end of the night, where I don't feel weird about anything breaking up or settling. It really does not settle into my lines at all. Pores and texture both appear blurred when I am wearing this foundation. That's good for me. By the end of the day, I find it to be hydrating, so it doesn't just feel the way it did when I put it on. My skin actually feels better by the end of the day in terms of hydration than it did when I started. And if you've got dry skin, that is just an amazing thing, because we can use all the help we can get. It stands up to humidity really well. I've worn it out in weather. It was the only foundation I wore in my 2 weeks when I was in Ireland. It stood up to rain and humidity and weather and sweating and walking all over the place, and it still looked good at the end of the night. So now that I have that extensive experience with it, I would probably rate it higher than my 5th place that it's currently in, but that is what it was when I originally rated it. I would probably bump it up to an A- at this point, which would put it in contention with the number 1 foundation that we will get to in a couple minutes. But that's where we are with the Ordinary Serum Foundation in their colors line. It's absolutely awesome. In 3rd place, coming in with a score of a B+, we have the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Foundation. I have this in shade Neutral 1-2, which is soft or classic ivory. And this one surprised me when I reviewed it. It retails for $13, comes in 15 shades, which is a decent selection for a drugstore foundation. It wears as average weight, doesn't feel heavy, doesn't feel super lightweight. It's got a slightly dewy finish. I'm not totally into the dewy finish, but this does not cross that line for me. It's still acceptable in terms of the level of luminosity that's going on. It has light to medium coverage, builds up pretty well, 8-hour wear time. You can get a solid work day out of it. It is hydrating, very comfortable to wear for dry skin. And in terms of how it helps with texture, pores are still visible on me, but they're not accentuated, so that's good. It does cling to dry patches, so if you're having an overly dry skin day, it is going to cling to dry patches, which is a downside, and it does slightly settle into fine lines on me. But overall, the color matches really well. It's a very comfortable, hydrating type of foundation to wear, and for its flaws, I think it is still a good deal with the shade range that you can find at the drugstore. In 3rd place, this one also really surprised me. It is the Maybelline Dream Cushion, and this is in shade 15 Ivory. Now, I don't like buying cushion foundations because the amount of product you get for the totally inflated price point is honestly just ridiculous. If they had refills, and there are a couple high-end brands that make refills for your compact, then maybe I would be okay with it, but they are really, really overpriced. But I tried it anyway, and I was happily, pleasantly surprised. This retails for $15.99. It got a B+ in my review. It only comes in 8 shades, at least it did at the time of review. I haven't gone back to update and double check if they released any more, but the nice thing, I think, about this foundation is it feels incredibly lightweight for the amount of coverage that you get in one layer. You get an instantaneous medium coverage without having to build it up. You can build it up. It does build nicely if you want more coverage than that, but for something that feels so lightweight, if you can find a color match in this, you get solid medium coverage in a very single layer lightweight application, and that makes it very fast. You only have to do one layer to get that kind of coverage, and that works really well. It is a very dewy finish. It's a luminous, dewy finish. So if you're not into dewy, you're gonna have to struggle. Maybe powder this down, set it with a powder, but it is very dewy. It's got solid coverage. I'm very, very happy with the coverage. Also hydrating, comfortable for dry skin. That it's hard to find. It's harder to find than I thought it would be, quite honestly. You get a solid 9 hours of wear time out of it. Beyond that, it does start to break down. Pores and texture are both visible on me, but they're not accentuated, so that's tolerable. I'll take it. And by the end of the day, I do have slight settling into fine lines with this foundation, but I'll tell you, if you're looking for a quick out the door but still look like you've got good medium coverage, check this out. It's worth trying. In second place, you guys have heard me talk about this as one of my favorite drugstore color matches. It is one of my favorite drugstore foundations altogether. It is the Rimmel Lasting Finish 25-Hour Foundation. I've got this in shade 091 Light Ivory. Really good shade match for me. It's a cool undertone. I think it is their lightest shade, actually, and it works well. In my review, I gave it a B+. It retails for $7, comes in 7 shades, so the shade range is not extensive. It wears as sort of an average weight, not heavy, not super lightweight. It's got a natural satin finish, really easy to wear. It's a light to medium coverage. It does build up nicely if you would like to do so. I get 9+ hours of wear time out of this. Some days I can go 10, 11, 12 hours and still think it looks pretty good. So while it doesn't reach that 25-hour wear time that they claim, I'm not going to test it for 25 hours, but you do get 9, 10, 11, 12. You can get a long day out of this foundation. The longer I want to wear it, I do prefer to set it with powder and use the setting spray if I know I'm going to have a super long day, but it does cooperate very well, and it holds up. It holds up nicely. It gives both slight blurring of pores and slight blurring of texture, so those are two things that I really like because I got some things to fix going on here. It is best set with a powder, and it looks a little heavy if you try to build it up too much. So don't go past that 2 coats if you are looking to build it up. It does get a little bit heavy, but it wears really well. It is super comfortable. It is not drying at all. Hydrating to the skin, great for dry skin. Awesome. I do love it. I do love this foundation. And number 1 is what I am wearing on my face today. I don't wear it as often because it's not a hydrating formula, but it is a look that I prefer. And let's just get it out of the way. It's the highest rated drugstore foundation in my reviews thus far. It is the L'Oreal Infallible Total Cover Foundation. I have this in shade 301 Classic Ivory, which is the lightest shade. And I like a satin matte finish. I don't like a dewy finish, but when you have dry skin, it's really hard to find foundations that are on the matte side that do not dry your skin out, and this is one that does not dry your skin out. You can wear this if you have dry skin. Hallelujah! We have found one that works. This foundation scored an A-, the only one that's up in the A range in my drugstore reviews, and it retails for $13, comes in 12 shades, which is okay for a shade range. The best thing about this foundation to me, aside from the fact that it's matte and I can wear it, it's weightless. It feels like absolutely nothing. I mean, it's like wearing nothing. It's pretty phenomenal. The coverage is great. You get a nice natural matte finish in a single coat. This is 1 coat that I'm wearing right now. It's medium to full coverage. If you build it up, you'll get full coverage. I'm at about medium, single coat, so lightweight. I mean, it's kind of phenomenal. I don't know what magic voodoo is happening inside this bottle that makes it possible, but it's happening. I get a solid 9-hour wear time out of this, not much more. It does start to break down after that 9 to 10 hour mark. But in terms of texture and pores, I get a slight blurring of pores. Fire trucks. I get a slight blurring of pores and a slight blurring of texture, both things that I really, really like. This foundation does not settle into fine lines on me, which it's tough to find ones that don't, and I just love the finish. I think it's a beautiful finish. It's exactly what I want most of the time, and I can pull it off with dry skin. It's comfortable. It's not a hydrating foundation. Your skin's not going to feel better at the end of the day than when you started, but it does not dry my skin out. So it is just the same as when I started, and that's okay with me. So there you have it, my top 5 drugstore foundations plus 1 honorable mention. What are your favorite drugstore foundations? Leave me a comment down below. If you've got some favorites that I have not tested out yet on my channel, I will definitely try to get my hands on them and get a review up. I will link my Foundation Fest playlist down below, so if you've missed any of the reviews on these foundations, you can catch them. And make sure you subscribe and click that bell for notifications when I post the high-end sister to this video. Thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.